And next on the list of your first kind of experience with space engineers is actually to build your first ship. Now this will also incorporate the kind of building in creative mode part of this tutorial. So I'm going to come over to the sun because the sun is setting here. It's nice to have some sun. And we can build on the platform maybe while the sun's still here. So I open up my toolbar. You can go to all blocks, G, and then, actually we don't need to do that. Just go back to the first toolbar by hitting comma or control 1. And I can press 1 to get the armor block. Now, to start with, we have an armor block which is in the large grid mode. So what we need to do is to build a small grid like a fighter is actually hit the 1 key again, and now we've switched to the small grid. So we can hit that again and again to switch between large and small grid building. So now we've got a small grid, we can place it down, and by clicking on the different faces, we can actually start to build this grid up. Now, something to help you on your mission of building a ship. Okay, I made a mistake there. I should have built a landing gear. I mean, sometimes if you're careful, you don't have to build a landing gear. But in fact, I will build a landing gear because that will help me actually not drift away, because the landing gear will automatically lock to the grid. So my bad there. You don't need a landing gear, but it definitely helps when building in space. So let me just drag a landing gear onto the wheels, because we're not going to be doing any wheels this very second. Same with the landing gear. We have the large grid landing gear here. So by hitting 8 again, we can actually get this landing gear placed, and then using the control hints up there, we can rotate this landing gear to actually face the right way. And it's okay making some mistakes, because actually some of these mistakes, some of the things that you guys might actually have when you start playing the game, like knowing to need a landing gear, is actually something that you might not realize to start with. So that's actually totally fine that happens. So landing gear is a good option. Right. So using 8 again to switch to small grids, and then I'm going to do page up to spin this around. Holding control and hitting the keys in the top right actually moves this by 90 degrees, and that's actually a lot better if you're trying to align it with another grid. Hitting B actually does that as well. I think when you're placing a grid, maybe that's not quite right. So, small landing gear placed. This is creative mode, so we don't have to worry again about needing certain resources. Even in survival mode, landing gears are locked automatically, so that's also a pretty useful thing. So what we can do is we can start building on this landing gear, which is safely locked, so if I accidentally run into it now, it's not going to fly off into space. Before we go any further, I'm going to talk about symmetry mode, because symmetry mode means if you want to build a symmetrical ship, rather than like having to go click here and then run around to the other side, we can actually use symmetry modes which will mirror our block placement. So if I come up here and I hit M, this activates like symmetry mode, and I can move the position of where the actual line of symmetry is on this grid. It's a tiny little grid here, and it's the same for this big grid, and it's the same for the ship, which actually already has a line of symmetry on it. This is really key for saving time when building. So I can place it down here with left mouse button, so it's now placed. If I click it somewhere else, it will move that to a different position. Now, by hitting M, you see I actually switch between the different axes, and each axis actually has 2 modes. We have an alignment mode where you'll have a central block. So say here we have 3 blocks wide, and the line of symmetry is in the middle of that center block. Or hitting M again, actually where the line of symmetry is between 2 blocks. So it's depending really if you want to have a very central block here, right? And the same if I change this mode now, I'll be kind of building in twos, you might say, building in pairs rather than... I personally prefer to have it built on the center of a single block, and having, especially for small grids, because cockpits are 3 blocks wide, it's definitely better to have this mode as the symmetry mode on this. I can place more planes, so by hitting M again, I can go to something else and I can activate that and hitting it again. So now I have 3 lines of symmetry here. And then if I keep scrolling through by pressing M still, we get to back to block mode. So we have symmetry mode turned on. So when I build in this corner here, we actually get 4 blocks built on the top and 4 blocks on the bottom. Normally when I build a fighter, I don't have that many on, so we can actually disable them here by hitting M again and actually right-clicking to remove that plane. So we'll just stick here with just 1 line of symmetry, the red one here. So if I just delete some of these and scrolling through with M again to get to block building mode. And this will be perfect now for actually building this ship. Save us some time on each side. And you can toggle symmetry mode on and off if you want to suddenly build asymmetrically by hitting N. N turns it off there without going through all the different planes. So N and M are the 2 keys needed for symmetry mode pretty much. So now we've got this, it makes us building blocks much quicker. The next tip for building blocks quicker is building in lines and building in planes. So if I hold down Control and then click on a plane, hold Control, then hold left mouse button and drag out, you can see here I'm now building in a line. I can change the direction that line goes. And while I'm doing this, if I hold Shift, I can then move out in a plane as well. And you have to be careful here in the angles. It's probably easier if I actually don't do this. Oh, oops. Hit X, fly in the jetpack, and then I can then build a plane here. There you go. So really good for getting like the whole built out real quickly, especially on these bigger ships. So I'll fill this gap in here with a line, and we built a plane and 2 lines. That's also another kind of quick trick for building much faster. Now before we get into kind of more decorative stuff, I'm just going to show you the very basics you need to build a ship. So here's the main hull of this ship's going to be. By hitting 3, we'll actually find the cockpit block, and we want to place this in the very center here. So we'll hit that there with left click. Cockpit block's placed. We're going to need some power, so we can hit 4 to get to our small reactors. Again, in survival mode, these will need to have uranium ingots inside to power them, but in creative, you don't need to worry about resources for power either. So I can rotate this block using the cube up above. Delete, page down, home, end, page up, insert, all do this stuff. So it doesn't really matter so much for this creative build. So I've slapped down 3 small nuclear reactors here. Next, we can go along the line and go to ion thrusters, which only work in space. So there's 3 types of thrusters in the game. We have ion, atmospheric, and hydrogen. Now, we're not going to go through the other types today because the main easy start space is the ion thrusters. But atmospheric only work in atmosphere, ion only work in space, and ion do work elsewhere, but with much less efficiency. Like iron are really only efficient enough to work on moons and in space. And hydrogen can work anywhere. So the hydrogen thrusters can work on planets and in space. That's also worth noting out. So when it comes to building thrusters, in Space Engineers, you need to have thrusters in, did I say iron? Ion thrusters. You'll need to have thrusters in every direction. So we'll need forward thrusters, which you can place down here. You can just put 2 down. We'll need thrusters on the side like this. We'll need thrusters going up. 2 there. And also thrusters pointing down. Now I know some of you guys in chat will say you've forgotten something, but I do know this. So what we're going to do is now we're going to hit gyroscope on 7, and we need just 1 gyroscope for this small ship. Gyroscope enables us to spin around and actually aim our ship in a certain direction. So we'll put down one gyroscope here, and we actually now have all we need to fly this ship. That is, it's not the prettiest thing, but actually it will work. So we hop in here with F, and we're inside our cockpit. We can hold Alt to look around. There we go. V to change to third person. Now, all we need to do now is hit P to unlock the landing gear, and now we're able to fly. Now, you might have noticed something here, and we actually missed a direction to have thrusters. So we have our dampeners on, and we're now drifting forward because we have no reverse thrust. And we can correct this by spinning around and using the thrusters in the other direction to actually counteract that movement, right? But it's definitely harder when you're flying. You want to have thrusters in all directions. It really makes sense. So again, we're moving forward here without anything because we have no reverse thrust. So I'm just going to spin us around real quick, stop us from moving, hop out, fix that issue real quickly, get on thrusters placed like that. And now we have thrusters in all directions, and the ship will fly much better now. And like earlier, all the controls, Q and E to roll, WASD to move around, mouse to actually aim. And alternatively, you can use the arrow keys to actually turn ships. There we go then. So this is like the very first basic ship, and you can, of course, make this look a lot more attractive. But this is all you need to actually fly around the space, fly around space in creative mode. Yeah, plot twist, exactly. Yeah, you guys thought I did that on you guys thought I didn't realize. I realized that exactly because part of what some of it's been accidental, but some of these things are issues that you'll have when learning the game, right? But you won't, like, I'm trying to recreate some of the common mistakes that new players make, right? Right, so we have our first working ship, and we can make this kind of more funky by putting some slope blocks on here. So once I go onto armor block, any blocks in the G screen that have a little plus icon mean that they actually have, they're grouped together. So armor blocks is a group of blocks. We have light armor slope, light armor corner, light armor inverted corner. We've also got half light armor block and half slope light armor block. So there's a bunch of blocks in there that you can use, and we can access these by once it's actually equipped in my toolbar. One, using the scroll wheel, I can actually rotate between all these variants of light armor. That's the same for heavy armor, which is a tougher armor, more expensive to build, and it's the same for wheels, same for all kinds of blocks have this plus icon to save room in the toolbar pretty much, and to make building quicker.
Meteor storm inbound.
Right. So what we'll quickly do is here, I'll just show you how you can add some slope blocks to this. I can rotate the block on the grids using the control keys up above that are listed with the controls. And now I'm going to do hold control, drag out this way, and now we have a row of slope blocks here. That's all nicely tiled together because that's one of the things in Space Engine is armor tiling. So rather than seeing the lines of each block, they actually have armor blocks actually tiled very nicely to give this kind of more continuous effect, right? And yes, the meteor storm is happening again. So before we move on, painting actually. Let's do this. Let's cover painting real quick, because that's another kind of key customization option. I think as a new player, you can experiment yourself with lots of these blocks. A lot of them kind of do what they say they do, and especially rounded blocks and stuff like that. So you can discover those for yourself, I think. But painting is something that's quite important. So to open the painting menu, we need to first have a block selected in our hand. And now if we hit P, we'll open up the color picker. And there's some pre kind of selected colors here. And we can actually change any of these values. We We can have whatever color we want. We have a hue slider, saturation, and a brightness slider as well here. This is all very customizable. But let's take a blue, as we've got this other blue ships nearby, and then we'll hit OK, which is just behind me here. Should be see it through my transparent body. And to color blocks, we can press the scroll wheel. So by pressing the scroll wheel, we color that one block. And because the symmetry mode is still activated, luckily we don't have to color both sides individually. The painting actually works with symmetry mode, which is fantastic. Now we can hold scroll wheel to continually paint. To paint at a faster rate, we can hold both control, which will paint a 3x3 block area. It should. There we go. You see now when I hit control. Okay, there it goes. I think it was when it's in symmetry mode, it doesn't like being in the middle here. Or wasn't it wasn't close enough, one of those. And if we want to paint the whole grid, we can do control and shift. Right, this will have to be, I have to cut this one out. There we go, it's weird. There we go, I found a block and now the whole grid is blue. I don't quite know why that is misbehaving there, but it should work just fine. So then again, I can now select yellow, say. Go and paint some yellow on here. Always fixing bugs in Space Engine, but you know, it's a constant effort as we're in early access to crack down on all the bugs in the game. So it's another good point. If you're a new player in the community, definitely check out support.keensoftwarehouse.com, and there you can actually report your bugs, upvote other bugs that you've been experiencing that other people have already posted. This is also really key, I think, for getting that stuff reported so we can fix it. So using the shift, I was going to show you can really quickly paint stuff. There we go. That's like I think it's 6x6. I think is the area for was it 7x7? I can't quite remember for painting. I think it's 7x7 by 7. Sorry, it's a cube base color, so we can really quickly paint grids. But then you also have that precision with just the single individual blocks as well. That's the painting, and I think that will kind of cover us for building our first ship. This is 7x7x7 for shift. Control is 3x3, and then control and shift is the whole grid there. So there we go. Now I'll ask the chat if there's anything that you guys think I should tell you guys about, anything I've missed in this intro section here. Any good pointers for new players, or if you are a new player, please don't be shy, ask away, and I'll see if I can get that question answered. Oh, color picker, that's a good point with the painting. So say if there's a color you really like, if you're playing, you know, survival with some friends, or you're looking at some other people's builds, and you're saying, I'd love to have that tone of red. I can do shift, and then P while aiming at that, and that will add, you can see the color picker just down here. You can see which color I have selected based off down here, and that will add that color to my color picker here, and that'll actually be saved so long as I go to something else. That's the red I wanted, but if I wanted to, I don't know, this pink here could be also that red. Hit P. You can see how you can customize your color picker within Worlds. Looking at other suggestions. Oh, cycling colors. Okay, so using the brackets, the bracket keys, you can actually flick between these different colors in the picker. So you can see as I flick through, which is really nice. When it comes to building in Space Engineers, you can really make your building so much quicker by doing this, right? You can actually, if you have a certain theme to a ship, so okay, this red ship has black, white, and red. It means that rather than going into the color picker every time or shift P, I can quickly just hit the brackets to switch between the colors that I want. Square brackets, sorry, should I say, square brackets, not rounded, yeah. Be more precise there. Energy consumption, yeah, so there's more to say about survival. Now on the other side of the screen, I should have done it at the start maybe, we have all the information again about the character including the speed we're going at and the dampeners, and the status of various like helmet and jetpack. But also we have bars. Now the top bar is for health, the second bar is for oxygen, the third bar is for energy, and the final bar is for hydrogen. And in survival mode, these will all be getting depleted. Health, of course, will be fine as long as you don't have your helmet open, or if you in space, or if you run out of hydrogen or oxygen, so I say. And energy will be getting depleted when I'm using my tools. So when I'm using my welders and grinders to actually work, that actually depletes energy from my suit, which you'll have to recharge at medical rooms. So if you come over to a medical room here, it looks like this. By holding F at this panel, this will actually recharge my energy. Wasn't going to go into it, but in this, if by accessing this, you can also change your appearance. You can switch between the different colors of the engineer, and you can also switch between the female and the male engineer, which we have here. So that's also there. And this is also where skins appear, and you can customize your character with various skins that you find in the game through drops. So that's just pretty brief looking at the player customization stuff. Finally, in survival, when it comes to kind of keeping an eye on certain values, is your jetpack. Your jetpack will actually consume hydrogen when being used, and that's something else that you'll need to top up, either with hydrogen bottles or with at the medical room